Shanna Ross with Shanna Ross Fitness in Houston, Texas, and what I want to show you today is a very quick, healthy dinner. Let's face it, after we've been at work all day, the last thing we want to do is come home, have to go scrounging for a recipe that's complicated, has a lot of ingredients, and spend another hour on our feet in the kitchen. It's just not going to work. If we have to do that day after day after day, the likelihood is that we're going to stop off somewhere on the way home, possibly make some poor choices in a restaurant that's serving fatty food, or go through a drive-through of some fast food restaurant, which is one of the absolute worst things you could do. But this is going to really help you learn how to cook a wonderful, healthy, nutritious meal in less than 15 minutes. And what we're going to do today is a pork loin. Isn't that beautiful? We're going to use an organic pork loin. I urge you to try to do the same. If you can't really afford it, get the absolute best, leanest cut of meat that you can. All right, so that's my tip on the meat. Very simply, we're going to cut this up into small rounds. It's going to make it cook really, really quickly. That is the key to getting out of the kitchen in record time. Very simple ingredients. We simply have some herbes de Provence here. I really like the Pinzey's brand. If you live in Houston, Texas, we do have a retail store here. If you don't, you can find Pinzeys.com, their full line, and I highly recommend their spices, their seasonings. They're very pure, they're very fragrant, they're very tasty. You can make food taste a lot of different ways just by what you pick to put on it. Then, very simply, we have some salt and pepper, and to spice it up a little bit, make it taste a little better, we're going to do a reduction with a little bit of white wine and saute some portabella mushrooms in that to pour over the pork loin once it's done. Sound pretty good, huh? It's going to be nice and tasty, and we'll get to the preparation in just... All right, so now we're ready to put together our pork loin dinner. It's going to be fast, which is good, and it's going to taste good, which is good. So we're all good, right? Right. All right, here we go. Remember, we had that nice, beautiful pork loin. All I've done is cut it up into rounds. Why did I do that? Well, I said it's going to be quick and easy, and this is the way you make it quick and easy. Pork actually cooks pretty quickly, so if you cut it up into these little rounds, it's going to give you much, much, much less cooking time. All I'm going to do is put a little bit of olive oil in the palm of my hand and then just rub it over the pork loin. I'm not going to need to put any extra in the pan because I have a nonstick pan, so it's not going to stick. This way, it just gives us a nice surface for our herbs. You don't want to put too much on it because you really want the flavor of the meat to come through. You know, one of the things that I talk with people about is our food is so overly processed and overly seasoned, really, in restaurants, that we're not really sure what food tastes like anymore. That's why cooking at home is always a wonderful idea, because you're not going to be over-seasoning anything. You're going to get the goodness of the food that you're preparing, and isn't that really what it's all about? All I'm doing right now is just putting a little bit of salt and pepper on the pork loin, making sure that I have some good seasoning on there, but not too much. We're going to put the skillet at high heat to begin with because I really want to heat it up and sear the outside of the pork quickly so that all of those nice, wonderful juices get trapped inside. Now, one thing that I can tell you is if you're planning on keeping this in the fridge, having some for leftovers, maybe to take to lunch for the kids after they come home from school, whatever. Don't overcook the meat. because chances are, if you're going to have it for leftovers, you're going to want to pop it in the microwave and maybe heat it up for a little while. And we all know how quickly microwaves can cook food and very, very quickly dry the pork out. Because pork is a very lean meat, especially pork loin, it can get dry very quickly. So don't overcook it. I know a lot of people are a little afraid of pork. They think that if you don't just, cook it until there's just no juice left in it, that you could get food poisoning. But if you're buying a good cut of meat, good quality meat, and again, I said this was organic, you're going to be much less likely to cause any damage, especially if you buy it fresh, bring it home, keep it refrigerated immediately, and cook it very, very quickly. All right, so I'm just going to test the pan here, make sure that it's getting nice and warm. It feels good. And let's start putting it in. Hear that sizzle? That's what you want. If you get them too close together and the heat isn't high enough, then they're more likely to really steam, and that can make for a tough cut of meat. So you don't want to do that. You want to just make sure that it's cooking quickly. Keep that heat on high. As we let this cook it's going to take about 2 minutes each side. That's really about all. So as we let this cook, I'm going to go ahead and chop up some of our garlic here, because I have the mushrooms ready to go. And this is another quick tip. If you don't want to spend a lot of time chopping things up, buy your vegetables pre-chopped. Buy your mushrooms pre-chopped. That's what I did with these. You have to look for ways to save time so that you can devote what little time you have to preparing a nice healthy meal. Look for shortcuts, and that's going to help you out a lot. You notice how you're seeing some white around the edges of the pork? That means that it's cooking. So it looks really good right now. Let's go ahead and turn it. As you can see, a nice little brown tint to the pork as we turn. I have my stopwatch going, so we're going to give it another couple of minutes. Take it out of the pan and prepare the mushrooms in the same pan. So not a lot of cleanup either while we prepare the mushrooms. All right, now really, that was about 4 minutes. If you're just not quite sure that they really had that much time to cook, wait. So they're nice and cooked. And remember, as they're sitting, as we're preparing the mushrooms, because they are so hot, they're going to continue cooking, even though they're not on the flame anymore. So let's set those aside. I'm going to chop up some garlic right quick. For you folks who don't do a lot of cooking, garlic is really, really easy once you get it separated. You just take it, smash it with the edge of your knife, and that way the skin is really easy to come off. You don't have to fight with it. It comes right off. Just take the top off. Very quickly chop it up. Watch those fingers. It doesn't have to be chopped really, really finely. You just don't want it in big hunks. And the smell of garlic and mushrooms cooking together is something everyone should experience in life. It's fabulous. Okay, olive oil, about 1/2 tablespoon of unsalted butter. Yikes, butter. It's not a lot, all right? About 1/2 tablespoon. A little bit of heat going. You don't want to overheat olive oil, all right? So you don't want to put this on high heat. About medium is all you really need. We're going to put the butter in. Now you notice I did not clean the skillet. That's because I want the pork stuff that's left on there. It's going to give the mushrooms a wonderful flavor. As the butter's melting, you want to just go over the pan and scrape up all that really, really good stuff off the bottom. So we have a little bit of sizzle now. In goes the garlic. You can hear it, I hope. I'm going to stir that around just a little bit. Don't want it to cook very much because, again, we're not wanting to heat the olive oil to a high heat. We'll have that stove on medium setting. Just want to release some of the flavor of the garlic. Can't wait for smell-o-vision. This is heavenly. And in go the mushrooms. It's really however many you want. If you like a lot of them, put a lot of them in. If you don't like a lot of them, you just want a little bit of the flavor to go along with the pork loin, then just put a few in. All right, these are looking really, really good. As the mushrooms start to brown, that's what you want to see. You just want to see that nice brown coating on them. It smells really, really great. All right, so we're going to need some liquid in here. This is just a very inexpensive table wine. I'm going to pour it over. And this is going to reduce, cook down. You want to cook off some of the liquid. So if you think the pork was a couple of minutes on each side, that's 4. We had a little prep time with the mushrooms, probably another 3 minutes. That's 7. Now I've got myself into a corner because I'm going to have to do math. And then we're going to cook this for probably another 3 minutes. So we don't have a lot of time invested in this yet. And our pork's already done. Okay, so our wine has reduced. Our mushrooms are nice and lovely and brown. Turn the heat off. I'm going to take our pork loin, put it on a larger plate. Spread it out a little bit here. Go straight from the skillet. Get all that good garlic. And there we go. Doesn't that look wonderful? Now by my stopwatch, we're right at about 21 minutes. Remember that the more prep you do ahead of time, like getting pre-cut mushrooms, the quicker this is going to be. But you've got a wonderful, healthy dinner in 21 minutes. It's going to taste wonderful. There aren't a lot of ingredients in this. Here we have pork loin, some seasoning, a little bit of wine, olive oil, butter, and some mushrooms. Wonderful, delicious meal. Now, it's going to be great if we can have a great nutritious vegetable to go with this. And I am doing a video all about vegetables, how not to make them boring, how to make them wonderful and tasty. A great side to this is some steamed asparagus with a vinaigrette dressing over it. So look for that video and you would have a complete wonderful meal. Thanks a bunch. Watch some of the other stuff. Eat right. Put good fuel in. Your body's going to thank you for it.